Derk Loorbach, you're the director of the Dutch Research Institute for Transitions, and you work a lot with something called transition management. What does that mean?
It's difficult to explain in a minute, though I'll try. Transitions are large-scale changes over a very long period of time. So they're revolutionary, radical changes. And transition management is trying to take the understanding of transitions and try to organize small-scale interventions, focus on this radical change on the long term. So what we do is try to understand these dynamics of disruptive social innovation by experimenting with a lot of change agents in different areas like urban sustainability, energy transition, food transition, transition healthcare, basically trying to figure out how to do it completely differently. And in doing so, we better understand the nature of social change, of disruptive social innovation, but also of inertia and persistency and lock-in, as we call it.
And what would you say are the necessary steps for an idea to turn into something significant?
Yeah, one of the more analytical parts of our work is trying to understand the dynamics of transition processes. And basically we say they are processes of innovation, where you start with experiments and they start to mature and people start to develop a new routine and a new image and they develop a new network, and then it might institutionalize and scale up. The other type of process happening is a destabilization of a dominant way of thinking, organizing and doing. Basically what we would call the regime. Take the fossil energy regime, which is increasingly put under pressure. We want it to become sustainable. We cannot drill under the Arctic anymore because it's not profitable. There's all sorts of shocks in the oil market. There's geopolitics. There's a carbon bubble. So the pressure increases. Looking at historical transitions, what then happens is a destabilization and a chaos and a disruption of this status quo. So these are the dynamics of transitions, and what we always do from our transition research perspective is try to understand what is going on, what are the dynamics going on, what is the agency involved, so what are the innovators, the change agents, the front runners, people that resist or that might sort of are able to create space for emergence or for new practices. And what we then do is try to organize a process, selective participation we call it, so we only involve the willing and the able and the sort of the transformative agents, and take this idea of a transition to develop a new kind of discourse. So we bring them together to reflect on the dynamics, try to envision futures, and then through backcasting, try to develop transition scenarios and pathways. This is a process through which a network, a transformative network is developed that is also empowered to take action. So often it's about accelerating and empowering and guiding already existing innovations.
And do you think change is possible at all in technology? How does technology play into this?
Well, historically, in our modern society, technological innovation was maybe the most dominant driver. It brought us progress and welfare and so on. What we see in sustainability is technology is the least of our problems. So often the superior technologies are already there, like electric cars or renewable energies or better healthcare systems. So the technologies are there, but the challenge is much more to change the institutional, behavioral and cultural context. So it's always a co-evolution. So it's also about new technologies and how to use them. But we feel the challenges are even bigger on the social-cultural side. So people see sustainability as we have to do with less, or we cannot sustain our level of welfare. And maybe in a way that's the case, but in terms of quality of life, we can gain enormously. But that requires really a mindset shift, new ways of working, new kind of habits and routines. and they can be enabled and accelerated, these changes, by technology. Technology should play a role in that, but technological innovation alone won't bring us a bright, sustainable future.